Hi, my name is Kelly, and I'm here to talk to you today about math homeschool curriculum. There are a lot of choices out there, and I have just a sampling of some that I have experience with, or I know parents who have had experience with them. But before we get started, I do want to remind you that it is super important that you make progress in your child's math curriculum daily. I know sometimes it's difficult if they're taking classes outside of the home and they might go to classes 1 or 2 days a week and you feel like that fills up your entire day. But it's important to make daily progress for two reasons. Number one, it's kind of like reading or phonics in that it continues to build on a skill. So you can't just sit down and power through a chapter, kind of like you would do with history or science, but it's built upon lesson upon lesson. The other thing is there are so many lessons you have to get through in a school year. And it is really important that you get through the entire curriculum during the school year. If you don't, then your child is going to actually end up behind. So, one of the things I recommend if your student does take classes outside the home, if there's a day where they do assessments, or maybe there's like a review day, if you can save those worksheets or tests for days that they're doing classes, then it might make it a little easier on your family and a little easier on your child. Or the other way that you could modify it is on their school days. You could have them do a new lesson and then maybe do half of the new problems just to check for comprehension. And as long as they understand it, then you're good. And the next day you can move on. If they don't really understand it, then you know that's something you need to spend more time on. Okay, so just make sure every day your child is making progress in their math curriculum and that you're correcting it. Feedback is very, very important for math. So please make sure that you are checking it daily and letting them know which ones they got correct and going over the ones that they do not get correct. So I wanted to start with a program. It is not my favorite, and honestly, I don't recommend it, but there are a lot of homeschool families out there who use it and like it, and that is called teaching textbooks. So I wanted to let you know because at some point you might hear a family recommend teaching textbooks. The benefit of it is that you can either get CDs. This is kind of the old school program, or you can actually pay for it on and do all the work online. It would be an audio and visual curriculum, great for audio and visual learners, um, because they listen and watch the lessons on the computer, and then the student goes ahead and they do the work on the computer as well. It does give them instant feedback, which is another reason parents like it. Parents like it because they don't have to teach it and it gives instant feedback. I don't like it as an educator because this program is about a year behind. It really is. Take my word for it. If you decide to do this, if your child is in fifth grade, you need to be doing the sixth grade teaching textbooks. If you don't, your child will end up behind. The other thing I don't like about it is they dumb down the math vocabulary. And while this makes it easier for the student to understand, it doesn't help them when they get into higher math. So that's teaching textbooks. If you decide to do it at your own risk. I've warned you. If you have a kinesthetic learner, someone who learns by doing and is very active, a really great kinesthetic math program is called Right Start Math. Now, I will tell you up front a couple of things you need to be aware of. Number one, these are all parent-led lessons. So this will take up between 20 and 45 minutes to an hour of your day. You do have to sit with your child and go through the lessons. This is a higher level one. What I did love about it as a teacher and as an educator is the teacher's manual is very rich with not only the dialogue you're going to have with the child, but it also has notes along the side that explains it to you. This curriculum, the Right Start curriculum, was actually created by a woman who went to the Orient and learned how they did math, and then came back because, they have the highest test scores and have the most, mathematically and scientific minded people. She came back and she created this program based on their learning. So it does use the abacus, as you can see on the front page. Lots and lots and lots of manipulatives. I kid you not. If your kid doesn't like manipulatives, this is not the program for you. But if your kid, again, learns by doing, this is an awesome program. My daughter is very much a kinesthetic learner. And when we figured that out in kindergarten, we switched her over to this program because she could do simple addition, like, it was early kindergarten. So she was doing, if you said, Becca, what's 3 plus 1? She'd say 4. But if you gave her manipulatives and said, show me that, or what does that mean? She wouldn't understand. So there was this disconnect in her understanding of math. So we moved over to the Right Start curriculum because she was very kinesthetic. And I tell you, she just took off. And it was really wonderful to see that this child who struggled in math in the very beginning became more engaged and understood more and more about it. Back when she was younger, the program only went through 4th grade. We finished it in 4th grade, and she tested that year at end of 5th grade level in math. So I really feel like it set her up for success because she was a kinesthetic learner. Again, you have to remember that you will have to teach this program. It is not child-led. For the very first couple books, there are very few worksheets. It is not a worksheet-based program. It's an activity-based program. On some of your days, you're actually doing card games with the kids. And so it's fun, but it's a lot of learning. It is also a very, very, very different way of thinking. So if your student is actually in like 3rd or 4th grade, this curriculum would probably be super difficult for them because of how they teach. Right Start goes through and first teaches all addition. So my daughter could actually add into the thousands in 1st grade before we even started subtraction. Okay. And then it goes through and teaches all of subtraction. So like I said, it is a different way of thinking, but if you have a student who's kindergarten or 1st grade who is very kinesthetic, or even 2nd grade who's struggling with the math that you're doing, and they're a kinesthetic learner, then Right Start might be a good fit for you. So check out their website and you can read more about them and their program. What's nice about it is when you get the kit, the very first kit you purchase will be more expensive because it has a lot of manipulatives, but then every year you just purchase the add-on kit because you already have the abacus and you have scales and you have some of the other things that you use throughout. So the add-on kit has the manipulatives you need for that specific year, plus the student guide, plus the teacher's guide. Okay. Another very popular homeschool math is Saxon Math. This is Saxon Homeschool Edition. It's kind of an older version. The new Saxon Homeschool is blue. So I'm sorry, I only have upper grade books now because my kids are all grown. But Saxon is a really great program. It is parent-led when they're younger. When they're older, the students can actually go in and they can absolutely read the lessons for themselves. As you see, like it has, you probably can't see, but it has the new concept and then it shows them how to work out the problems and it takes them through that step by step until they're doing the practice on the new concept. The other thing that I really, really like about this program, about Saxon, is the review. There is constant review. It can be super overwhelming for students. I would always have my kids they would do all of the practice, which is related to the new information they learned. But then on the review portion, I would only have them do every other problem. So that way it wasn't as time consuming and overwhelming. And again, if they had a busy school day, like they were going to classes, then all they had to do was the new lesson and the practice. The nice thing about Saxon that they have done in the last couple years is they have come up with CDs, Saxon teacher CDs. Um, Now, unfortunately, I don't think they have them like online yet where you can purchase like the MP3s or whatnot. You need a disk drive in a computer. You can't play them on a VCR. We tried, it doesn't work. And I know that's hard as we're getting away, like we're a Chromebook family and none of us have CD players. But we do still have an office computer that can do that. So, the neat thing about these CDs is it will go over the entire lesson with the student. So you can make the student read the lesson or watch the lesson. And then after you grade the work, because again, it's going to be like in the textbook, right? And so this is something that they would keep a separate notebook and they would write the answers in their notebook. You go through and you grade it. And let's say they get number 5 wrong and number 10 wrong and number 15 wrong. Well, you have them put in the CD and they can actually watch each one 5, 10, 15, and it will go step by step by step how to do the problem. I love that, especially for our higher math. My son did not love this program, but he had to do it in geometry and algebra because then they could go back not only and check their work, but he would have to write out the correct way to do the problem. So that was kind of my way of checking up on him and making sure that he was actually learning and doing it correctly. So Saxon is a really big homeschool curriculum for math. And if you watched my grammar and writing videos, they also have grammar writing program that is really, really good. I don't have a sample of it, but Singapore math is another math that a lot of homeschool families use. That it's also called primary mathematics. It has a very colorful textbook, and then there's a student workbook, and then there's a teacher's guide, and then there's an assessment book. So there are lots of parts and pieces to it. For older students, they would be able to read the lesson on their own. For younger students, you would want to read it with them. My son did this program in 3rd grade. Honestly, I never understood how to use it all together with all the different books. And that was my downfall, really. But the other thing that didn't work well for us was it did not have a constant review. And so he actually didn't do as well on his standardized testing that year because he had forgot what we did at the beginning of the year. So that was kind of the downfall for us. And so then we went back to the math curriculum he was using. They do have an online portion as well. I can't remember if I said that, but I have a family using the online portion and she absolutely loves it. And she was able to schedule out the entire year for her son. And he does it. If you're looking for an online math curriculum, I would highly recommend Saxon, Singapore or primary math as opposed to teaching textbooks because they actually do use the real math language and it is appropriate for the grade level. There is a math curriculum that River Springs, if you're with Springs Charter School, a new math curriculum that we are telling parents about for next year is the Ready Core Math. Sorry, my note fell on the floor. Ready Core Math is pretty neat because it has the student textbook and it also has all the lessons online. So again, it can be a mixture of the students watching the lessons or the students reading about it in the book. I've heard that the lessons are only like 5 to 7 minutes, and I believe they're all cartoon. You also have access within this program as the teacher to print out advanced worksheets for your student, or also like worksheets for struggling students to support them in their learning. So there are a lot of really great aspects of that. And with Springs, we use the iReady as an assessment and also as a tool to help kids learn. And this actually correlates with that. So then your student can do specific iReady lessons that are going along with the curriculum. So that is another curriculum. Math-U-See was a popular curriculum when I first started in the homeschool world. Less and less people use it nowadays. That is also very manipulative based, so it's kinesthetic. The thing I don't love about that as an educator about that program is every year it just focuses on a very specific thing. So to tell you the truth, my students who have used Math-U-See, they have always performed lower on all the testing because basically they're only doing, like, there's a year of fractions and decimals and there's a year of multiplication and division. And I don't necessarily think that that's best for teaching math. We'll talk in history about how some history textbooks repeat themselves over and over and how that's not necessary. I really think with math, it is in a sense necessary that the students are continually learning different topics, but at a higher level than they were before. There are also online courses for math that you could sign your kids up for, as well as in-person co-op classes. Those are really good if you want your student to have that face-to-face time with a teacher. My son did Saxon the first 3 years of high school, and then he did an in-person pre-calculus class with River Springs, and I tell you, it made a huge difference. So I kind of learned from that, and so once my daughter hit high school, I made sure that she was actually doing an in-person class for math, because I felt like that was necessary. Neither my husband nor I are math majors. My husband enjoys math, and he enjoyed teaching our daughter when she did the Right Start program, but it does get harder with higher math. What about the whole Common Core, blah, blah, blah? Okay, so I've been in education for 24 years. Okay. When I first started, no joke, 24 years ago, we were teaching Common Core math. We just didn't call it that. But the thing that I've seen about Common Core is it's a lot of reasoning. It's a lot of deducing. It's a lot of, let's talk about it. Let's figure it out. What's a different way to do this? Right Start actually does that a lot. And I do not think that that is a bad thing at all. I think if you have the right curriculum, and if your student has the right support in it, it can actually make them better thinkers. I think one of the issues and one of the big struggles with the whole Common Core math is sometimes the textbooks or the curriculum are not written in a very straightforward way, and it can be confusing to the kids as well as the teacher, and that's when we get all like hung up, like, what's going on here? So don't freak out about Common Core, because here's the thing, it's here today and it could change in 3 years. To say, well, I'm absolutely not going to teach my kid the Common Core way. Okay, but what if they do that in high school? Or what if they have to do that in college? And thank goodness it looks like the SAT test might go away forever. But I was hearing that they were going, before the whole COVID shutdown thing, I heard that they were changing the SAT to make all the math Common Core. So like, as a parent, I feel responsible to be teaching my child in the way that our state is going, because I don't want them to be clueless when it comes to higher education. But that's a choice you can make for yourself because you're homeschooling. But don't be afraid of it, because you can teach your child different ways of doing a specific type of math. There's nothing wrong with that. And most of the programs that I've mentioned have weaved the Common Core standards into it in such a way that it is understandable for the student as well as for the parent. Um, so I think you're in good hands if you use any of these programs, except for teaching textbooks. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can do this even with math. I know you can.